What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Bam Bam Motorsports YouTube channel. For anyone wondering why I haven't posted in such a long time, you're actually standing in it, or at least I am. We built this shop last spring, and the business that the shop was built for just took off. I run a motorcycle, ATV, dirt bike, repair shop out of here. I have really kind of found my niche in the market as kind of a Harley restorer. We've done several, complete tear down and restores, and, word got out that I do decent work, and, we stay slammed busy in here. With that being said, I still do work full time, and I run this business kind of full time. I work, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I come home every night and I stay in the shop until, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, pretty much every night. So today's video is a real simple video. We're discussing the V-Rod, and when I say V-Rod, we actually probably should name the silver V-Rod because it's got a twin now. I picked up an 06 Screaming Eagle CVO in red and black. That bike is a bike that I've been chasing for many years. Scott Fitzgerald has one that kind of started Fitzgerald Motorsports that's named Spitfire, and from the moment I laid eyes on that particular bike, I knew I had to have one, and I was finally able to get one. The deal fell into my lap. I practically stole the darn thing. So we need to name the turbo bike. I'm kind of leaning toward the name Bucket. Let me know what you guys think. I called it Bucket one time because it is a bucket. This thing is a bucket of spare parts. It kind of, looks like dumpster smell. But anyway, so the Turbo V-Rod Bucket has always had its own little party trick. And that party trick is that it has a bone stock engine in it. And when I say bone stock, I mean I have never had the valve covers off of that engine. I don't even know how to work on that engine, to be honest with you. We bolted a turbo to it. It's had it started with a nitrous setup. We ran that for years, and then I swapped it over to turbo last year. And anybody who's a subscriber on the channel, hopefully you've seen those videos. That bike has done some really cool things with that stock engine. We set an MWT record last year at 239 horsepower, 142 foot-pounds of torque. And it lived through that. Just recently, we went to the track and finally got that 6-second eighth mile that I have been chasing for nearly 4 years now. We went 682 at 104 miles an hour, really on a botched pass. I mean, that wasn't even anything spectacular. That bike seriously has a 650 in it, I do believe. But let's be honest, that engine, we're pushing it. We've been pushing it, and it's gonna let loose soon. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually it's gonna happen. So we got to come up with a backup plan, and the backup plan is really simple. The backup plan is sitting right here behind me. This unit right here. This is a 1130cc engine out of an 06 V-Rod that I picked up off of my buddy Kevin Schutt out of Texas. I just picked it up today from the local freight company, and this engine is unknown miles, unknown condition, which is perfectly fine because this engine is not going to be, there's not going to be much Harley left in it when we're done. The build is going to be super simple, and I know this is going to blow some people's minds, but this thing is staying 1130 cc's. And before you jump down my throat in the comments section about how inferior an 1130 is versus a 1250, I'm going to stop you right there. The rods and the crank are the same on the 1130 versus the 1250s. The only difference is the bore size. The 1250 has a 5mm larger bore. With that being said, all of the parts for supporting mods are identical between the two engines. The rods, I'm going with a set of Carrillo rods. CP makes, Carrillo makes a set, or CP, I'm sorry, makes a set of pistons for these things. The crank doesn't need to be changed. The head studs are the same, which I plan on doing. I'm going to do a cut second gear. I'm going to pin the mains, do a crank brace, probably a billet oil pan, do the grade 10.9 bolts to really, make this thing hang together. the goal on this thing, it's a lofty one. And I'm not going to lie to you, I don't even know if we can achieve it, but I want to see 300 horsepower at the rear wheel of that bike from an 1130cc engine. I think it's possible. I think that'll be pushing it, especially on the stock cases. They may crack, they may break, it might spit the crank out, it might hit the freaking ground. I don't know what's going to happen. But you know what? If I've learned anything over the last few years, if I set my mind out to do something, we're going to accomplish it one way or the other, or we're going to die trying. So here in a second, I'm going to set you guys up on a time lapse. We're going to cut this thing open and see what we got here. All right, here she is. Now, I know it doesn't look like much. This thing is, it's definitely weathered. It's definitely been used, and at some point it has definitely been outside or underwater, or this might possibly be the engine that powered the Titanic. I'm not entirely sure. But as you can see, nothing special, just a stock engine. I do like the fact that it is a black cased engine. I always kind of wanted to paint up the engine in the DX, pretty much just like this. A lot of things, pretty much everything that's aluminum is not going to be reused from this engine. It'll come, from the engine that I have, and the valve covers, the clutch cover, the stator cover, probably the water pump. I might replace the water pump if I can find one, because I'm going to take it apart and look, but I'm pretty sure, the inside probably matches the outside. But, it's a start. This engine's going to get tore down, thoroughly cleaned, inspected, just all the normal stuff that you would do when you're building an engine. A lot of parts are going to be transferred from one engine to the other. Obviously, the turbo kit, the fuel system, things like that. I did get the throttle bodies and stuff with this. I might end up going to a set of 58 millimeter throttle bodies. Might have Scott, work his magic on that and, get a good set of throttle bodies on here. Definitely going to do a set of cams, probably going to be a set of Scott's, Fitzgerald Motorsports, forced induction cams, the stuff I already mentioned, the rods, the pistons, the head studs, cut second, pin mains, crank brace, billet oil pan, just everything that is, going to be required to let this engine live at, a very high horsepower. Now, with that being said, when I say that we're going to try to break 300 horsepower, that's obviously just on the dyno. Honestly, for the racing that I do, it's, mostly bracket racing around here, and it's all 8th mile stuff. I don't really need much more than 200 horsepower to be consistent. But I just want to be able to turn the wick up, whenever I'm feeling a little sporty. So, to elaborate on some of the reasons that this thing is staying 1130, it's really simple. With a smaller bore in the same stroke, I improved my rod to stroke ratio. The heads don't need to be ported as much. The cams don't need to be as big to let this thing breathe. So with that being said, this thing is going to turn more RPMs than the 1250. I would like for it to make, some pretty high RPM horsepower, and I'd like to rev it to about 10,000 RPM. I think that's a comfortable cap for this thing. And I just feel like, if I lessen the weight of the piston, everything is just going to live longer. It's going to be easier on the rods. It's going to be easier on pretty much the entire bottom end. So fuel-wise, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but the plan right now is to run this thing on methanol if I can achieve it, if I can get a big enough injector in there. I have a set of 1400cc injectors that I got off of, what is that guy's name? Karza. Off of the Vrod forum. So that should be more than enough fuel on methanol to supply this thing. I might run out of fuel. According to the calculations, that'll net me about 250 horsepower. So I might start looking for some larger injectors. I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to try to achieve 300 horsepower. I'd like to do it at MWT next year because it is the 20th anniversary, but we just might not be there. Obviously I have my own dyno. I can set that number whenever I want, but I'd love to do it in front of all my friends and stuff. So, yep, here it is. This is the new heart of Bucket. And obviously there will be subsequent videos of me tearing this thing down, doing the build. You know, there will be plenty of updates. I'm really excited about this thing. I think this thing is going to be an absolute freaking weapon when we are done with it. But anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, guys, stock is never an option.